back to another lesson of the Logos and Letters. My name is Liam, and we're going to press on with this really interesting and valuable and human sort of subordinate genus of the supreme genus. Some of the stuff that comes out your mouth when you're teaching logic is ridiculous. I mean, some of these words sounds like I'm speaking a different language. I'm just going to press on. So, so according to, remember, we're speaking about morphine as the shape of the stuff inside the perimeter. So, schema, schemata would be all of these, like the outlines, okay? And the morphe is like, what is actually in the outline. So imagine for a second you see someone far off in the distance. Maybe it's your significant other, maybe it's a loved one of some sort. But they're so far in the distance that you only see the schema of them, right? The outline of them. And you don't recognize them initially. You continue on your way, look down at your phone, you change song or look up something, reply to a message. And as you look back up, they're closer now. And you can start to see more details of their morphe. And so much so that your perception of the perceptible allows, the knowable person to become known to you. And therefore, you've got that relation between the two. You recognize, and you've gone from just that's a human being to that is, I don't know, you're imagining the person, so that's that person, okay, that you're imagining. And that's the morphe. The morphe is that thing that allows you to know specifically who they are, because there's so many particular accidents in there. It comes with all of the shapes you would expect for a human being, okay, and so much more. They're particular accidents too, so they're maybe the color of their eyes, the size of their eyes, the way they smile, okay, the breadth of their shoulders, okay, the length of their body, or the height of their body, I should probably say. Length of their body, that's a strange one. That's all. That's the morphe, and you sort of like you sort of get the picture now, don't you, of what morphe is? And schema is just like sort of this outline, sort of just the shape, okay, the two-dimensionalness of it. All right, it's got a human shape to it. If you say that about an animal, it's got a human shape to it. You're talking about the schema, okay? Okay, let's continue. Toda manon kaeto puknon kaeto traku kaeto lion doksai menan boyon di se mainan, right? So he's speaking about a few things here. Toda manon, right? Look at that. 3 graphs in a row. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 graphs in a row. Did anyone else spot that before I said that? That's got to be a record. I'm writing that down. 11 graphs in a row. There is a rule of why that is the case. If you'd like me to create a series on teaching Greek accents, I will do that. I don't think there is a thorough series on YouTube. I've trawled YouTube to see if that was done, and there are a few lessons which are like 3 lessons, 30 minutes each, and they cover the generals. That's like the most extensive that I've ever seen. Some just 20 minutes long. But if you want to know all of these rules, there's about, including the exceptions to all the rules, you're looking at about 900 to 1,000. And it's worth learning because you can learn how to write Greek at the same time. It's something I've started working on, and it works like a charm. It's still, going to be a long process, but yeah, I'll be happy to teach that one day. It would take me no time at all. It could be something I do in my spare time. I'm sort of just talking myself into doing that. Anyway, so we've got the to manon, which is the we've got, sorry, I just want to get rid of that. To de, Lord help me. Lord show mercy. To the manon, okay, and to puknon. Kai to traku. He's speaking about different qualities here, qualities that we find in shapes. We have the rare and the dense. Okay, we've got the rugged, to traku, and we've got the to lion is the smooth thing. To traku is the rugged thing or the rough thing, even harsh thing, and to lion is the smooth thing. Seems to show some kind. To be like to signify some kind of quality. What sortish? Okay, so let's continue on. Ayokade, but, okay, this is sometimes and, but here it's clearly but. Ayokade, alotriata, toyauta ainai, tais perito poyon diar resios, thesin, garmalon, tina fainetai ton morion hekateron dailun. Alright, so position, key here, right? So he thinks, and rightly so, that it's more so a position. So you can speak about the rarity and the density of a thing. Puknon mengar toi ta moria shuneg. This is supposed to sound like hang. Sunengius ainai al aleluis. Right. So close by. So puknon. Which we have up here, topuknon, is like the dense. So density is like position. It's not so much a quality, it's position. Okay, why? Because the parts, damoria, synenius, ainai, aleluis, right? They're kinsmen almost. That word reminds me of kinsmen so much. They are neighbors, they are closely compact to one another. Okay, manon de toi, and this one is rather manon de toi, and manon de toi distanai ap alelon. Right, they stand away from each other. They stand apart from each other. For manon, for the rare things, their parts tamoria apalela laun. No, apalelon, that's the genitive case. Apalelon, so they stand away from one another, and the parts for the dense stand close to one another, and it's all position. So yes, it seems to signify something of quality, what sortish. It does seem to point out these sorts of things. However, it's more fittingly said that it is position. Now, of course, you're thinking, yawn, this is just mathematics. It's just mathematics. What is the good of all this? Well, let me just find a picture and we'll cut straight to the chase. So if we think about density and rarity, how dense and rare do you want to make your sails? Okay, that's the question. Okay, if you make them way too dense, they're going to be too heavy, they're going to be too stiff, they're not going to really catch the breeze too much and work as the proper instrument and tool that you want. However, if you make them too rare, they're going to split and rip too easily. Okay, of course they can split and rip anyway. It's almost expected of them and accepted. However, you don't want them splitting and ripping for any sort of breeze, any sort of strong breeze. How dense and rare do you want the wood of your ship? Okay, so you want dense oak and all sorts of things, like all sorts of tough wood like that. But then there are rarer woods. There is a couple, and they appear in the Bible too, in the Pentateuch, especially Genesis, in the construction of, I think it's gopher wood or something. Isn't that rare? Isn't that like porous in a way? so on and so forth. So the construction materials, that's what I'm getting to. The construction materials are thinking about the position of its parts. Are they close to each other or are they not close to each other? Okay. What else? What else? Let me get something different from besides building things. Closeness and separation. Closeness and separation. Rarity and density. Rarity and density. It's a difficult one. It is a difficult one. Because if you don't talk about construction materials, you'd have to talk about something almost metaphysical and abstract in a way. Well, bingo. A halo, all right? In this case, a rainbow is a great example of something rare and dense. So we've got the density of the water vapors, the rarity of the water vapors that are either being evaporated from a strong sun after a shower or something of that kind, or even just from the rising of the waterfalls. And in that, as the sunlight pierces the rare air and vapors, it allows for the chance for a double rainbows to form. All right, so rarity and density has a lot to do with meteorology. All right, if there's a meteorologist or an aspiring meteorologist in here, I've got two things to say to you specifically. One, we're going to cover Aristotle's meteorological works sooner rather than later, actually. So stay tuned for that. But the second one, you'll know all about how rarity and density of vapors and cloud coverage and heat and cold all work together, especially in coastal regions. It seems to be even more affected by those sorts of things than inland regions, or more volatile anyway. So that's talking about position of parts. That's not talking about specifically just some quality, okay? So we go back to this, and we can see kai leon mentoi ep euthaios bosta moria kaistai. So he's explaining why he's saying it's more position of the parts, just in case anyone isn't satisfied with that line of reasoning, and he addresses it. So kai leon men, so the smooth thing, kai leon mentoi ep euthaios bosta moria kaistai. So somehow, in some way, the parts are lying straight upon one another in a straight way. Okay, so that makes sense. If you shave, your hair follicles are like in line with the skin in a way. Well, that's the idea, and that gives that sense of smoothness after the shave. And trakunde doi men hyperkain do the elaipain, right? So roughness, on the other hand, ruggedness as well, you can translate that too, is when something overextends, hyperkain, or tode elaipain, which falls short. So in that way, you can think of things being jagged, almost like a mountain range. All right, so yeah, mountain range there. So you can see some overextend and some fall short. So that's what he's imagining and what he's trying to teach here when it comes to rough and rugged. That's what the parts would look like. They're not in formation like something that is smooth, or lion is the smooth thing has all of its parts lying in a straight line or as close to it as possible. So yeah, we'll leave that there. Hopefully that lesson was interesting, because again, at face value, it seems just so straightforward that it's not even worth reading, but it is, and it's valuable, and it has lots to do relate to some theology. I know that sounds strange, how parts and shape and figure and all that can relate to theology, but I'm specifically thinking about the Catholic or Christian, I should say, Christian theology when it comes to sacraments, especially when it comes to the church itself, the ecclesia, as I'm preferring to say. There's something about saying church. I don't really like the sound of Anyway, so we're going to leave that there. We will cover most of this all the way down to that full stop in the next lesson. So hopefully you enjoy that. And yeah, if you're a meteorologist and you've got any comments to add about weather patterns and whatnot that you would like to add, feel free. This might be your only time for, I don't know, a little while now. Thank you, and as always, si semper fortis in opere tuo. My name is Liam, and I'll see you next time.